Hey, it's Max doing another speed paint. Um, so right off the bat, I want to talk about the wood texture here because my recording really didn't capture it very well. I use a technique where I take a spray brush, spray down a lot of texture of like a light yellow and a darker reddish tone, and then use a motion blur on it to get the streaks. And then I use a perspective transform to turn it into a surface, in perspective. Um, it's a fun technique, better than drawing this all out and then adding detail later. So here I'm putting in a bowl uh, to put the food in. Um, I don't. This bowl does not last long. Let me put it that way. There we go. I'm just gonna build it out of shapes and then shade it from there. I really did not like the consistent curves, or inconsistent curves rather. So I just decided to make one with tools and then shade it from there. I do a little bit of a perspective transform on this bowl just to position it in space a bit better. Here I am adding a stony texture, so that's just a brush that paints stones, and then I lower the opacity and erase them out to give it sort of a marbled texture. Looks like some really nice stoneware. And then putting in all the ingredients. Lessons learned from previous speed paints: start with just big shapes and general colors and then render them from there so that everything's positioned first. So right off the bat, starting with the egg yolk, bibimbap is a beautiful dish with a bunch of vegetables on top of rice with a soft, um, like a fried egg on top. Sometimes a raw egg, but that's a bit much. So yeah, I think the color in the egg turned out pretty nice. Not being afraid to go super saturated. The shadow in the egg is like bright red from the reference pictures that I was looking at, so I wanted to capture that. And then I just start working around the bowl, putting in some veggies. So this is like a red cabbage. I used that comb brush to figure out the directions of these different clusters of cabbage. It's very chaotic. I think it turned out pretty nice after figuring out the direction that it would lay. Just going in with light, dark, light, dark. Here I use a little bit of a smudge tool. It's called fingertip in my program. So it's just smearing that around, adding more chaos. Next up is mushrooms. I love mushrooms. And so I'm just laying these all in here. Um, this exercise, this painting, which I would recommend um, doing one for yourself if you are inclined. It's a lot of great textures and overlaps and shapes. It's a lot of fun. And then also looking at a couple different references to decide what ingredients I wanted in, how I wanted them to be arranged. I think that these are like zucchinis. It just gives you some opportunity to like take a group of colors and a shape and repeat it and play around with it. So here on the left, I think that this is like sweet potatoes, maybe carrots, I'm not sure actually. And then right in there, maybe it was spinach or some sort of greens. So different reflectivities, different shapes, different types of volumes. I have no idea what this is in here. I wanted something sticking out of the bowl. Maybe these are beans. I don't know if you'd put like beans in there. I really don't know. I should probably have decided what ingredients these were and actually like drawn vegetables that exist. But, you know, they're fun shapes, fun colors. And again, just breaking out of the bowl so that there was a little bit of movement. Possibly could have done more of that, but I didn't want it to get too confused. And then from here on out, I think that I'm just rendering everything. This is my longest speed paint so far. I'm sure that you can tell the video is twice as long as the others because I spent so long on this piece. I did a little tonal adjustment there. Those guys weren't quite matching everything else. Yeah, loads of fun. I don't know. After a certain point, there's like not a lot to talk about as it's just rendering, adding gills to the mushrooms, adding some highlights here and there, my brush freaking out for some reason. Oh, here I'm putting in some sesame seeds. I think that I could have pushed these sesame seeds a little bit more, but I also didn't feel like drawing a bunch of individual ones. Here's some steam that I was trying out. So that's that fingertip brush, just laying down some white with a soft round brush, lowering the opacity, smudging it around, adding some reflections in the table. I think that really helps to sell it. You sort of get um, the texture of the table. Quick value check there. Always check your values. And then I took the lighting and steam out so that I could go back to rendering. Oh, it disappeared for a moment, but I added sort of a bounce light from the blue of the bowl reflecting in the table, and then the warm of the table reflecting into the bowl. They're both reflective surfaces, so they take on each other's colors, and I thought that it was a nice point of visual interest. Again, lending to this sort of like tacky varnish, like that it's, it feels like a sticky table. A nice sticky table. I want a table where like I try to scooch my bowl around and it doesn't scooch, it just like will not move. I think that adds a lot of feeling there. Back to just rendering out. I realized at some point that these, I'm just going to call them sweet potatoes. I don't think that you add sweet potatoes to a bibimbap. Maybe it's something else. But they, I had very different sizes in here, which if this were like a landscape painting, these would make great rocks. This would be like really great in perspective. But when you are chopping vegetables to cook, you want everything to be the same size, otherwise it won't cook the same. So at some point I go back in and try to combine some of the smaller shapes to make them bigger. There they are. Because there's like one big honking piece and then everything else is kind of tiny, and it just was too weird. Like no one would serve you vegetables like that arranged in this way. It looks, again, it would be awesome if this were like a landscape painting. These were rocks in perspective, but they are vegetables in a bowl, and it needs to look like that. Maybe I got my head too wrapped up in painting clouds and rocks from previous videos. This is a much smaller scale, so there's not going to be perspective. I did add a little bit of, a bokeh, which is where you have a very tight focal point. So I wanted the focus to be on the egg, of course, and then like the back edge of that bowl is a little bit blurred out, just because it's not in focus. There we go. Thank you so much. Leave a comment. like, subscribe. Let me know what I should paint next. Bye.